Picture this. GloRilla walks out of prison. Most people would expect her first words to be about freedom, family, or even her music career. But no, the very first thing she asked about was Yo Gotti and Angela Simmons. Think about that for a second. Fresh out of prison. And instead of celebrating, she's questioning her mentor and label boss about his relationship. That single moment flipped the internet upside down, raising questions about loyalty, trust, and what really happened while she was gone. And today, we're diving into why her first words shocked the culture. Fresh out of prison, most people would expect GloRilla's first thoughts to be about freedom, reconnecting with family, or celebrating the fact that she finally had her life back. But according to multiple reports, that wasn't the case. The very first thing on her mind wasn't food, wasn't fun, and wasn't even music. It was Yo Gotti, and more specifically, Yo Gotti's relationship with Angela Simmons. That detail alone flipped the internet upside down. Imagine walking out after months away, with your career on pause and your fans waiting to see what's next, only for your very first question to be about a rumored connection between your label boss and a woman tied to him. That's heavy. It's not just casual curiosity, it's not small talk, it sounds personal. Almost like suspicion had been brewing inside her the entire time she was gone. And that's what makes the story so fascinating. Instead of focusing on her comeback or her next big move in music, GloRilla supposedly wanted clarity on whether Yo Gotti had been spending time with Angela Simmons behind her back. To some, that came off as messy, as if she was prioritizing drama over opportunity. But to others, it revealed something deeper. The idea that while she was locked up, she may have felt left out, abandoned, or even betrayed by people she trusted. Because Yo Gotti isn't just another rapper. He's her mentor, the head of CMG, and the person who helped elevate her into the spotlight. Angela Simmons, on the other hand, is a respected figure with her own legacy in hip-hop culture. The thought of them being connected in a way GloRilla didn't know about clearly hit a nerve. When you're sitting behind bars, isolated from the outside world, you replay every conversation, every rumor, every headline, and it can make small doubts feel like big betrayals. So when she stepped out and immediately asked about it, it wasn't just about gossip. It was about loyalty, trust, and respect. And in the music industry, especially when you're tied to a tight-knit label like CMG, those things matter as much as money or contracts. For GloRilla, that first question told us everything about where her heart and her priorities were, and it set the stage for even bigger conversations about what's really going on behind the scenes. This isn't just gossip, it's a story that intertwines music, loyalty, and personal drama. And when those three collide, you already know it's bound to shake the culture. So today, we're breaking down what really went down, why the situation has people talking, and what the fallout could mean not just for GloRilla, but also for Yo Gotti, Angela Simmons, and the entire CMG family. But before we dive into the drama, let's rewind for a moment. GloRilla's rise to fame was nothing short of explosive. Practically overnight, she went from an unknown talent to a household name, thanks to her viral breakout anthem FNF, Let's Go. That track didn't just dominate social media feeds, it cemented her place in hip-hop's next generation of stars. That breakout moment turned GloRilla into one of the most in-demand new voices in rap, almost overnight. It was one of those rare instances where a single track didn't just introduce her to the world, it launched her into a different stratosphere of fame. Suddenly, she wasn't just an aspiring artist from Memphis, she was the name on everybody's lips, the energy that hip-hop didn't know it was missing until she showed up. When Yo Gotti and his CMG label stepped in, the timing couldn't have been better. Gotti, already respected as both a rapper and a label head, recognized something special in GloRilla: the raw voice, the authenticity, and the hunger that reminded people of hip-hop's roots. Signing with CMG gave her not just the credibility of being associated with one of rap's most successful movements, but also the infrastructure to capitalize on her momentum. With a powerhouse team behind her, she was no longer just GloRilla from Memphis, she was GloRilla, CMG's rising star. From there, the hits started to pile up. What began as one viral moment turned into a series of undeniable records. Collaborations rolled in from established names who saw her as the next big thing, and her voice, gritty, unapologetic, and instantly recognizable, started cutting through radio, playlists, and social media feeds everywhere. She wasn't just featuring on tracks, she was elevating them, bringing a sense of rawness that made every verse feel alive. But as exciting as that climb was, success in hip-hop comes with a cost, and GloRilla learned that lesson quickly. For every packed-out show and magazine cover, there were critics waiting to test her, fans dissecting her every move, and industry insiders questioning whether she had staying power. That's the unspoken price of fame. The brighter your star shines, the more eyes are on you, and not all of those eyes want to see you win. The spotlight can be a blessing, but it's also unforgiving. Every misstep gets magnified, every personal choice becomes a headline, and every moment of vulnerability is judged by people who don't know the full story. For young artists, that pressure can feel overwhelming. It's not just about making good music anymore, it's about maintaining an image, keeping up with expectations, and constantly proving that your success wasn't a fluke. And then there's the grind of staying on top. Once you've got a hit record, the industry doesn't give you much time to breathe. People immediately start asking, what's next? One chart topper isn't enough. Fans and labels alike want consistency, a string of wins, proof that you can deliver over and over again. That means endless studio sessions, constant travel, interviews, performances, and the mental toll of living under non-stop scrutiny. For GloRilla, who went from local shows to global recognition almost overnight, that adjustment wasn't easy. Of course, success also brought opportunity, and with it, temptation. The music industry is full of doors that swing open quickly, and not all of them lead somewhere good. Fame attracts both supporters and opportunists, people who want to ride your wave for their own benefit. For young stars, it becomes a challenge to figure out who's genuine and who's just along for the ride. That's where many artists stumble, because loyalty gets tested in ways that ordinary people can't imagine. And then, as is often the case in hip-hop, there were the legal troubles. It's almost a pattern we've seen too many times. The rise to fame is rapid, but the past, the environment, or simply the stress of the spotlight leads to run-ins with the law. For GloRilla, those brushes weren't just personal setbacks, they put her entire career momentum at risk. Labels can invest millions, but when an artist is suddenly unavailable because of legal issues, everything stalls. The music, the tours, the branding, the collaborations. Fans start asking questions, and critics are quick to label you as another talent who couldn't handle success. Still, one of the reasons GloRilla connected so strongly with her audience was because she never pretended to be perfect. Her rise wasn't polished or manufactured. It was raw, authentic, and rooted in the same struggles that many of her fans could relate to. That honesty gave her a relatability that fame couldn't erase. When she rapped about independence, pressure, or chasing success, it didn't feel like a script. It felt like lived experience, and that's what made people root for her even harder. So while her breakout moment turned her into one of the hottest names in the game, it also dropped her into a world where every move mattered. The spotlight was bright, but it came with shadows. Shadows of pressure, expectations, opportunism, and legal challenges. And the real story of GloRilla isn't just about the hits or the viral moments. It's about how she navigates those shadows while trying to hold on to her authenticity. Because in hip-hop, talent can take you far, but resilience is what keeps you there. And if GloRilla can channel the same energy that got her here into pushing past the obstacles, then her breakout moment will just be the beginning of a much bigger story. So when GloRilla found herself serving time, it wasn't just a personal roadblock. It put her entire career on pause. Fans were left waiting for her comeback, while the industry quietly wondered. When she returns, will she be ready to reclaim her momentum, or will the challenges weigh her down? Meanwhile, on the outside, Yo Gotti's personal life became its own headline. For years, he openly confessed his crush on Angela Simmons, even dropping it in his lyrics. It was almost like hip-hop's version of Shoot Your Shot. And against all odds, he actually did. By late 2022 rolling into 2023, Angela Simmons and Yo Gotti went public with their relationship. Instagram posts, vacations, red carpets, the whole package. For Gotti, it was the ultimate dream realized. For Angela, it was clearly a fresh chapter with someone she felt secure with. But from the outside looking in, not everyone was clapping. Some fans, and even a few voices within CMG, weren't too thrilled about the pairing. And here's where things really get messy. The day GloRilla walked free, the very first thing she allegedly asked about wasn't her family, her freedom, or even her career. It was about Yo Gotti and Angela Simmons. That detail alone is why this story has exploded, because it blurs the lines between loyalty, business, and personal lives in ways that could shake up CMG's entire dynamic. Reports say GloRilla's first words after walking out weren't about music, her comeback, or what CMG had planned for her return. Instead, she cut straight to the heart of a personal suspicion. Did you meet Angela Simmons behind my back? That's not a casual question. That's the kind of thing you ask when you feel trust may have been broken. It wasn't about curiosity. It sounded like doubt, maybe even hurt. And coming from someone who just spent time away, it shows she felt like a major chapter in her life played out without her, involving two people who matter a lot: her mentor and her label boss. Once this rumor hit social media, the reaction was instant and explosive. Some fans couldn't help but laugh, saying GloRilla wasted no time stirring up drama as soon as she touched free ground. Others were more understanding, pointing out that prison gives you nothing but time to sit, reflect, and question who really has your back. And then there was the group that wasn't buying it at all, arguing she should have been focused on her career, new music, and reclaiming the spotlight instead of worrying about Yo Gotti and Angela Simmons. No matter which side people fall on, the fact remains, one simple question from GloRilla lit the internet on fire. And it didn't just spark gossip, it opened the door to bigger questions about loyalty, trust, and priorities. See, this isn't just about random drama. Yo Gotti isn't just another rapper to GloRilla. He's her label head, the person who gave her a stage to shine on, and one of the biggest reasons her career skyrocketed so fast. And Angela Simmons? She's not some anonymous name either. She's a public figure with her own accomplishments, tied to hip-hop through her family legacy and her own ventures. So when you put all those pieces together, business ties, mentorship, personal feelings, and romantic relationships, you can see why this situation has layers. The music industry has always been a place where personal lives and professional lives collide, and usually, that collision creates tension. But the fact that this was GloRilla's first concern after stepping out of prison? That makes it feel all the more personal, all the more raw. Which brings us to the real question. Why does GloRilla care so much about Yo Gotti and Angela Simmons? Was there something happening behind closed doors that the public doesn't know about? Did she feel like Gotti's relationship with Angela meant she was left hanging, unsupported, while she was away? Or is this less about romance and more about loyalty and communication? Because if GloRilla truly felt blindsided, then to her, this isn't just about love, it's about respect. Being locked up forces you to reevaluate everything. Who you trust, who's really in your corner, and who might have switched up while you were gone. And judging by her first question, that was clearly heavy on her mind. That suspicion weighed so heavily on GloRilla's mind that it became her very first concern after release. And that raises a bigger question: what does all of this mean for CMG as a label? Yo Gotti has spent years building CMG into one of the most solid camps in hip-hop, with a roster stacked with names like Moneybagg Yo, 42 Dugg, ESTG, and of course, GloRilla. But here's the problem: when personal drama involves the boss and one of the label's rising stars, it doesn't just stay personal. It can bleed into the music, into collaborations, and even into the way the public views the entire brand. The last thing Gotti wants is for his private life to create rifts inside the crew. But the more this story spreads online, the harder it is to separate the personal from the professional. And then there's Angela Simmons. For her, this has to feel unexpected. She's been busy running businesses, raising her son, and staying active in fashion and entertainment. By all accounts, she wasn't looking to be caught up in label politics. But dating Yo Gotti automatically ties her to his world. And that means when CMG drama makes headlines, her name is right there in the mix too. And that's the tough part for Angela Simmons. Whether she likes it or not, this situation drags her into a conversation she never really asked to be a part of. By being tied to Yo Gotti, she's automatically tied to his artists, his label, and his reputation. But when you zoom out, the bigger takeaway here is about trust and how much it matters in hip-hop circles. When an artist signs to a label, especially one that prides itself on family vibes like CMG, there's an unspoken bond. It's more than paperwork and paychecks. Artists expect their label heads to provide guidance, protection, and loyalty. The second that loyalty feels shaky, cracks start to form. So when GloRilla came out of prison and immediately questioned Gotti, it spoke volumes. It wasn't just about her music. It was about her relationships, about who she can trust, and whether moves were made without her knowledge. That kind of mindset is human, completely understandable. But it can also be dangerous if it shifts the energy of the entire team. Now the question is, what happens next? For GloRilla, the opportunity is right there in front of her. She's free, her fan base is still waiting, and she's got the backing of one of the most powerful labels in the game. If she can put the drama aside and lock in on her music, she has everything she needs to stage one of the biggest comebacks of her career. But if the focus stays on rumors instead of records, then freedom might not feel like the fresh start it should be. For Yo Gotti, this becomes a test of leadership. Can he balance his personal relationship with Angela Simmons while keeping his artists feeling supported, respected, and united? Or will this tension start to chip away at the image and the strength of CMG as a whole? For Angela Simmons, the smartest move right now might be silence, letting her actions and her relationship speak louder than the noise. She didn't ask to be part of this drama, and the less she entertains it, the quicker it fades. But here's the bigger picture. Hip-hop has always thrived on stories like this. Love, loyalty, betrayal, success, and drama. It all plays out right in front of us, and fans eat it up every single time. Whether GloRilla's first words out of prison came from a place of genuine concern or just raw emotion, the fact that they've sparked such a massive conversation shows how deeply invested people are in her journey and in the CMG family as a whole. And let's be real, this probably won't be the last we hear about it. Situations like this don't just disappear overnight, especially when they involve three things that always make waves in hip-hop: music, relationships, and loyalty. Whenever those worlds collide, the culture pays attention, because hip-hop has never been just about beats and bars. It's about the stories behind the music, the lives of the people creating it, and the trust that holds everything together. Think about it. Some of the biggest moments in rap history have come not just from the music itself but from the drama, the headlines, and the personal conflicts that spill into the public eye. From label disputes to love triangles to questions of loyalty, fans have always been fascinated by the human side of the artists they admire. And in this case, GloRilla, Yo Gotti, and Angela Simmons find themselves at the center of a story that checks all of those boxes. So let's break it down. GloRilla's first words out of prison, allegedly questioning Yo Gotti about Angela Simmons, weren't just casual gossip. They spoke to something deeper, the feeling that loyalty may have been tested while she was away. When you're an artist, especially one signed to a powerhouse label like CMG, the bond between you and the person who signed you is supposed to go beyond contracts and paperwork. It's about trust, about knowing your mentor has your back no matter what. Now, the fact that GloRilla came out and zeroed in on this issue first says a lot about where her head is at. She wasn't just thinking about her career, her freedom, or even her family. She was thinking about whether moves were made behind her back while she was locked up. That shows you how personal this feels to her. And honestly, that makes sense. Being away gives you nothing but time to reflect and wonder who's really in your corner. On the flip side, though, some people argue this might not be the best move for her career. Right now, GloRilla has one of the biggest opportunities of her life, a chance to make a huge comeback, to capitalize on the fan base that's been waiting for her, and to reclaim her spot as one of the hottest new voices in rap. But instead of headlines being about her music, they are about her questions for Yo Gotti and her suspicion toward Angela Simmons. That can be a distraction. And in an industry where momentum is everything, distractions can be costly. Then there's Yo Gotti's perspective. As the head of CMG, he's not just an artist. He's a businessman, a mentor, and a leader of a label that's built a reputation for being one of the strongest in hip-hop. His personal relationship with Angela Simmons was supposed to be his own business, something separate from the label. But when GloRilla frames it as a loyalty issue, it suddenly becomes more than just his love life. It becomes a question of whether his choices affect his artists. That's not a good place for any label head to be, because it puts him in a position where his leadership and his personal life overlap in ways that can cause tension inside the camp. And what about Angela Simmons? For her, this has to be a frustrating situation. She's a businesswoman, a mother, and someone who has been tied to hip-hop through her family name and her own ventures for years. She didn't ask to be part of this drama, but by being with Yo Gotti, she's automatically connected to his world, and that means when CMG issues make headlines, so does she. The smartest move for her right now might be to stay quiet, focus on her own projects, and let the noise pass. The more she engages, the longer the story stays alive. At the end of the day, though, this isn't just about three people, it's about the culture as a whole. Hip-hop fans love these moments because they reveal the human side of the industry. Behind the money, the fame, and the music, these artists are still people dealing with trust, relationships, and complicated emotions. That's why the story has gained so much traction online, because it feels real, relatable, and messy in the exact way fans expect hip-hop to be. So the big question now is, where does this all go? Does GloRilla use this moment as fuel, channeling her emotions into her music and giving fans the comeback they've been waiting for? Does Yo Gotti step in and show his leadership by making sure CMG stays united, regardless of personal drama? Does Angela Simmons step back and let the storm pass? Or does she become an even bigger part of the narrative whether she wants to or not? No matter what happens, one thing is clear. This story has people talking, and that means it has staying power. The next few weeks and months will be critical, not just for GloRilla's career but for how CMG is perceived as a family and as a brand.
So now I want to hear from you.
Was GloRilla out of line for pressing Yo Gotti about Angela Simmons right after getting out? Or do you think she had every right to ask that question? Is this a sign of deeper issues inside CMG, or just a moment of raw emotion from someone who's been through a lot? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit that like button if you enjoyed this breakdown, and don't forget to subscribe for more hip-hop news, deep dives, and cultural analysis just like this. Because trust me, this won't be the last chapter in the story.